Thank you so much for having me here at Millions Missing. It's wonderful to be here with you all. So I first off want to say that I am here as somebody who has been working for disability justice for decades. And, I was lucky enough to be part of creating and forwarding the disability justice framework. Obviously, the work has been going on forever. Just because you name something doesn't mean you invented it. But I feel really honored to have been at the beginning of it. As the intro said, I'm a queer disabled woman of color who, like many of you, have been absolutely rageful at how this pandemic has played out, particularly across the global north. And I wrote my piece, "You Are Not Entitled to Our Deaths, COVID, Able Supremacy, and Interdependence," to give voice to that rage and heartbreak and disgust that I was feeling, and instead of just shouting into the void, as so many of us were doing. And also, I wanted to shine a light on the able supremacy of this pandemic and the ways in which embracing interdependence is the only antidote that we have. That is the only way we will get through this. Able supremacy is nothing new, and it has been around for as long as oppression has been around. It will not be ended by one amazing campaign or training or workshop or even organization. It will take broad systemic change to transform it, and as well, the systems that are so embedded in it and dependent on and with it. Systems like white supremacy, colonization, homophobia, transmisogyny, et cetera, et cetera. It will take collective solidarity between all kinds of disabled people, no matter what kind of disability we're talking about, whether we're talking about chronically ill and sick folks, mad folks, those with psych disabilities, cognitive disabilities, those who are deaf and hard of hearing, blind folks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It will take all of us understanding that none of us are free until all of us are free. And this is most certainly true within the disability community, within the broad umbrella of disability that houses so many different kinds of cultures and subcultures, but it's also true beyond disability as well. This is true about all people of color globally. This is true about all queer folks globally, all people living in poverty globally, all Indigenous and First Nations people living globally, all of us. Able supremacy is bound up with other systems of oppression and violence. It will take collective work and vision to build the world that we all long for, and the world that future generations deserve, that future disabled folks who are coming after us deserve, future disabled children. So I want to end, I know I have a very short amount of time, but I want to end with this excerpt from "You Are Not Entitled to Our Deaths." Quote, "We should be framing this pandemic in terms of interdependence. This is the right political framing because it is the only moral and humane framing. Interdependence acknowledges that our survival is bound up together, that we are interconnected, and what you do impacts others. If this pandemic has done nothing else, it has illuminated how horrible our society is at valuing and practicing interdependence. Interdependence, by the way, is the only way out of the most pressing issues that we face today, things like climate change, as well as this global pandemic. Because, as many folks here have probably noted, the solution cannot be that everyone has to get COVID. This is eugenics, because many disabled, high-risk people will die, and those who do not die will have serious complications and lifelong impacts to their health and well-being via COVID and the possibility of long COVID. Do not buy into this eugenic thinking that expects the most vulnerable members of our society to be sacrificed, to be collateral damage. Long COVID is real, and it can happen to anybody. And I know that many of you all out there know this as well. This pandemic will create millions more disabled people with chronic illnesses. Are we ready for what is coming next? Are we prepared for how many more disabled people with chronic health conditions there will be? Are we ready for how that will and should necessarily shift our movements and political work? Or are we going to continue to shut out disability and disabled people from movements and communities, just as we have been doing for eons? Are we going to continue to not include ableism and able supremacy in our liberatory work and our liberation work? To all the abled and non-disabled people out there who are listening to this or who will listen to this, if there was ever a time to be in solidarity with disabled people, it is now. It has been through this entire pandemic. This is about what you can do now. Now is the time to recalibrate and get back in alignment with your values. Do not participate in upholding able supremacy. Unlearn everything that doesn't serve interdependence. Interdependence asks us to imagine new ways forward with intentional and soulful commitment to each other. We need you. We need all of us. There is no getting out of this pandemic alone. There is only stopping the spread or pushing our government, schools, and businesses to do more. We can't do any of that alone. We need each other. We need each other. We need each other. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.